Reddit, what is your creepiest, most unnerving story? Real or not? Please creep us out. It has been reported that some victims of torture during the act would retreat into a fantasy world from which they could not wake up in this catatonic state. The victim lived in a world just like their normal one, except they were at being tortured. The only way that they realized they needed to wake up was a note they found in their fantasy world. It would tell them about their condition and tell them to wake up. Even then, it would often take months until they were ready to discard their fantasy world and please wake up asterisk. So with her honey and you're making out when the phone rings. You answer it and the voice is what are you doing with my daughter? Oh you tell her girl and she say me dad is Toto. Then who was phone? I work on a ship. One night I was having a meal with my crewmates including one guy, Kane, who had recently recovered from an illness. We enjoyed our dinner, excited that we'd be heading home soon. Suddenly Kane started choking and, shortly thereafter, began convulsing wildly. We managed to pin him down, and he was yelling. He then let out a loud scream and a large blood stain appeared beneath his shirt. Kane continued to yell in agonizing pain as a snake-like creature violently burst from his chest and scurried off. I will never forget that night. My sister lives in Bikaner, India. Their neighbor's relative called her to check on the neighbors as they had not been picking the phone for a day or so. My sister went on to see if everything was alright. She went in their house as the door was not locked and shrieked when she stepped in a pool of blood. Their servant had poisoned the family and slit the throat of each of the family member before stealing everything from the house. My sister could not sleep for a few days after witnessing the most horrible thing in her life. This isn't my story, it's something I read in a community I'm a member of on LiveJournal. It goes like this. This girl posted a story about something that happened to her mother. Her mother would every now and then drive miles out into the Borealis to see her parents. She describes what her mother told her happened to her when she was driving one night. Her mother is driving on a road with cornfields on one side. After a few hours, she sees something lying in the middle of the road so she stops. It's a man lying on his stomach on the road facing the opposite direction. A part of her wants to get out of the car to see if the man is okay, but her instinct begins to sound an alarm that something is not right and that she should stay in the car. She decides to drive around the man and proceed forward. After she is several feet away from the man, she looks in her rearview mirror and sees the man in the road get up and walk into the field. Years ago my grandfather was dying of complications from Alzheimer's. My little sister gave him a white stuffed bear with a pink heart on the stomach while he was in his deathbed. When you squeeze the bear it said I love you in a pre-recorded voice. He would constantly squeeze the bear and the voice made him smile. My grandpop had the bear in his bed until he passed away. Several days before he died my mother made him promise that he would somehow let them know he had made it there safe. After he died we placed the bear on the mantle above the fireplace. The family gathered shortly after his death to remember him. Just as we all sat down in the living room, the bear started speaking on its own. I love you, I love you, I love you. One of my friends told me this story in high school, and he swears up and down that it is true. One night, this guy was driving back home from his girlfriend's house when a large dog ran out in front of his car. My friend had no time to swerve and hit the dog dead on. Being an animal lover, he jumps out of the car to see if the dog is alright or not. But before he can come around to the front, he sees the dog get up on two legs and run off into the field next to him. Anytime I drive by a field now, my blood pressure spikes. I just want everyone in this thread to know that after reading this thread on the couch in the dark at 11 PM, I got scared and reached over to switch on the lamp, and the light bulb popped loudly and went out. The new bulbs are in the kitchen. I'm too scared to get off the couch now. I think I may be stuck here till morning. Asterisk LOOKS for cute, non-threatening puppy and kitten PICS asterisk. This is my creepiest real story. I'll keep it short. We'd been driving from coast to coast, and in Nebraska, we decided we needed to sleep. We pulled onto a side road and bedded down in the back of our pickup. It had a cap on the back and a mattress in the bed. Cool truck. Then we heard these blood-curdling screams. It was a woman. This was before cell phones. We hear a man grunt and the screams stop rather abruptly. The next morning we heard about a murder in the area. I think we heard a murder. Every time I have my one son on their changing table, he stares at the same spot about 5 inches over/beside my shoulder, roughly in the direction of their bedroom door. There isn't really anything there to look at, though I know that doesn't mean much for a 5-month-old. It really raises the hair on the back of my neck, though. I have to glance over my shoulder all the time to make sure. I think I've told this story on Reddit before. When I was young, my grandma came over to our house to babysit me one night. Nothing unusual happened the whole night. But when my mom got home, she checked the answering machine, and there was a message a few minutes long. The message was just my grandmother's and my voice laughing hysterically for the whole message. Like I said, the night was normal, and there wasn't a moment when the phone rang or laughed hysterically for minutes on end. Picture the scene. A man lies on the sidewalk at night, bleeding long red streams. His pants are around his ankles. He's telling a little kid a joke. I was that kid. He was my dad. True story. My family used to rent a house in town along with my aunt and uncle when I was very young, that we eventually moved out of because of very strange things that happened while we lived there. But the most memorable and final straw was the night my aunt was using the toilet and just happened to look down at this small hole in the floor that had been there since we moved in, and saw a man standing in the basement looking right back up at her, smiling. My aunt ran out of the bathroom and screamed for my uncle. After explaining to him that there was a man in the basement, my uncle went and got my dad, and they both went down the stairs, the only entrance into the basement, where they found nothing but footprints in the dirty floor, where someone had been standing and moving around under the hole. I was returning some pants. I took a shortcut in a subway tunnel and fell in some mud, ruining my pants. The very pants I was returning. Is anyone else only still reading this thread because they are now too creeped out to go to sleep, but reading more is just continuing to give them even more reasons to stay awake? Listen, children, and I will spin you a tale. It was a dark and stormy night in the year 2000 when, though he received 543,895 fewer individual votes than Gore nationwide, Bush won the election, receiving 271 electoral votes to Gore's 266. Boo. There is open debate as to whether or not what I'm telling you is true, but hear me out. There is a school of thought that believes that we are all part of an experiment, and you, the average Joe, are trapped inside ****your own mind. The believers seem to think that we, as the common public, have never woken up, never used our ******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************* think that everything we've ever seen asterisk asterisk and asterisk asterisk done is an illusion designed to keep us from getting too restless. It's said that only a few people have ever broken free from the illusory world. Believers note that the few who have escaped were clued into the true nature of reality by those who had broken free before them. Apparently they think that the freed people use subliminal messages to get our attention and alert us to our predicament. I'm sure none of this is true. I have a hard time believing it myself, but I just thought it might be something you'd want to look asterisk asterisk up asterisk asterisk. I used to see a girl whose dad was a police officer. He told her of pretty much the most horrific gangland murder I could ever imagine. They found the body of a local criminal at the bottom of a lake complete with concrete boots to make sure he sunk. Thing is, whoever did this to him thought this wasn't enough to do him in, so attached an oxygen tank and breathing apparatus so he'd be alive for at least an hour or so before eventually drowning. When I was a baby, my grandfather built me a custom crib. It's still in my folks' attic. Looks like a small-scale Noah's Ark. He designed it so it would slightly, but safely, rock back and forth depending on how my weight shifted. One night, my mom was tucking me in when an unwound music box in the room began playing on its own. Just a few notes. My mom didn't think much of it at the time. She left the room and went downstairs. A few minutes later she heard a loud thud and me crying my head off. Turns out the crib flipped on its side somehow, and I was still inside it, rattled but unhurt. It was then that mom realized the music box's tune was Rockabye Baby and the notes played roughly matched the asterisk and Down Will Come Baby, Cradle and All asterisk portion. My deceased aunt Kate had given the music box to her as a baby shower gift. To this day my mom suspects the incident was Kate's way of trying to warn her